Hi, this is One God Ministries, welcoming you to our YouTube channel. And today we are going to have a discussion on sex in the end times, video 82. So, there is a special scenario in the end times, and that is about sex. I want to quote WebMed Health News. Poor news spiked during the pandemic by Nick Tate. Grub's research team found porn websites had huge boost in online traffic in the early weeks of the pandemic as Americans were forced to spend more time at home. Pornhub, one of the world's biggest XXX websites, reported increases ranging from 38% to 61%, well above its astonishing 2019 average of 115 million unique visits per day, or 42 billion annually. So regions with the most restrictive stay-at-home orders and lockdowns had the highest spikes on online visit, the study found. But Grubbs noted that other less steamy streaming service reported dramatic increases in traffic too. Netflix and the BBC logged 16 million new subscribers in the first 3 months of 2020. That's nearly twice as many as the last few months of 2019. So, what are the reasons for this boom in sexually immoral videos? First is the modern dependence on cell phone and the internet. So, we have the development of the cell phone, the invention of the Android, and also of the improvement of internet services. There is easy access on pornographic sites. Just click, and even children can do it. That's why another study showed that children as young as 6 to 8 years old were frequent visitors on pornographic sites. Of course, they cheat on their ages. Okay. The lockdown came with nothing to do but to watch internet. It seems to be all orchestrated. There would be a lockdown, a so-called quarantine. At the same time, the development that everyone has a cell phone and an internet. Okay? And then there is the banning of social activities to people. So people would just resort to internet for the social needs. So people actually are social beings, and simply locking them down is practically imprisoning them in isolation. So how do they meet their social needs? It is through the internet. So you may wonder who is behind all this boom in sexual immoral videos. Near the end of the video, I will reveal the answer. First, I want to pose this question: who is to benefit from human sexual immorality? To understand this, let us investigate the scriptures. Let's look at the example of Israel. In 1 Corinthians 10, verse 1, it stated, "Moreover, brethren, I do not want you to be unaware that all our fathers were under the cloud, all passed through the sea. All were baptized into Moses in the cloud and the sea. All ate the same spiritual food and all drank the same spiritual drink." So there was baptism in Israel when they went through the Red Sea. And the cloud was actually leading them, a cloud which was from God. I continue, for they drank of that spiritual rock that followed them, and that rock was Christ. But with most of them, God was not well pleased, for their bodies were scattered in the wilderness. Remember, Jesus Christ said to the Samaritan woman that he would, it would come to him uh, a fountain of living water. Okay, so that rock in the wilderness from which water flowed practically continuously was representative of Jesus Christ. I continue with verse 6. Now these things became our examples to the intent that we should not lust after evil things as they also lusted. And do not become idolaters as some of them did, as it is written, that people sat down to eat and drink and rose up to play, that is, to play with sex. Nor let us commit sexual immorality as some of them did, and in one day 23,000 fell. You know, when Israel was nearing the border of Canaan, they were just a few kilometers away from the southern border of Canaan. Midianite women came out to play with them, that is, sex plays. And then the women would lead them into sexual immorality and also to idolatry. So, because of his anger towards the Israelites, the Lord destroyed 23,000 Israelites in just one day. I continue on in verse 11. Now all these things happened to them as examples, and they were written for our admonition, upon whom the ends of the ages have come. So what the Apostle Paul was talking in here is that we are practically in the last stage. Okay, the last stage before the Christians will enter the millennium of Jesus Christ. So who would decide who would enter the millennium or who would not? Who would enter into eternity? That is, be involved in the catching up, the harpazo, or some people call the rapture. So those of us nearing this age of the catching up will be given a special trial. So rampant sin and sexual immorality occurred to Israel as they were about to enter the promised land. The same temptation to occur to Christians as they are about to enter eternity. And this is what verse 11 is saying. Now let's look at the lesson of David about sex. In 2 Samuel verse 11, chapter 11 verse 9, it is stated, "Why have you despised the commandment of the Lord to do in his sight? You have killed Uriah the Hittite with the sword. You have taken his wife to be your wife, and have killed him with the sword of the people of Ammon. Now therefore the sword shall never depart from your house. Because you have despised me, you have taken the wife of Uriah the Hittite to be your wife." So, the curse on David is that his house, that is his household, will have murder occurring within their household. If you notice in the history of Israel, his children killed each other, and one of his children even tried to kill David himself. Thus says the Lord, "Behold, I will raise up adversity against you from your own house, and they will take your wives before your eyes and give them to your neighbor, and he shall lie with your wives in the sight of the sun. For you did it secretly, but I will do this thing before all Israel, before the sun." So David said to Nathan, "I have sinned against the Lord." And Nathan said to David, "The Lord also has put away your sin. You shall not die." However, because of this deed you have given great occasion to the enemies of the Lord to blaspheme. The child also who is born to you shall surely die. Now let's look at the lesson of Solomon about sex in 1 Kings 11, verse 1. But King Solomon loved many foreign women, as well as the daughter of Pharaoh, women of the Moabites, Ammonites, Edomites, Sidonians, and Hittites, from the nations of whom the Lord had said to the children of Israel, "You shall not intermarry with them, nor they with you. Surely they will turn away your hearts after their gods." Solomon clung to these in love, and he had 700 wives, princesses, and 300 concubines, and his wives turned away his heart. Now, now let's analyze this. Where did all these wives of Solomon come from? I believe they were from the enemy. The enemy has orchestrated this thing so that it would occur that Solomon would marry so many women, and there was not even a record that he married anyone that was an Israelite. In 1 Kings 11, verse 11, it stated, "Therefore the Lord said to Solomon, because you have done this and have not kept my covenant and my statutes, which I have commanded you, I will surely tear the kingdom away from you and give it to your servant. Nevertheless, I will not do it in your days for the sake of your father David. I will tear it out of your hand in the hand of your son." Okay, so if you look at history, what happened was that Israel was eventually split during the time of the son of Solomon, and the northern kingdom went to his servant, the 10 tribes of the northern kingdom. Only Judah, Benjamin, and a lot of the Levites kept their faith in the southern kingdom. Now, in the new covenant, Jesus Christ said in Matthew 5, "You have heard that it was said to days of old, you shall not commit adultery, but I say to you that whoever looks at a woman to lust for her has already committed adultery with her in his heart." So try to analyze this. Watching pornography and movies with sexual immoral content is actually what Jesus Christ was talking against. In Ephesians 5, verse 3, "But fornications and all uncleanness or covetousness, let it not even be named among you, as it is not fitting for the saints. Neither filthiness, nor foolish talking, nor coarse jesting, which are not fitting, but rather giving of thanks." Moving on, as the Apostle Paul said in Ephesians 5, verse 5, "For this you know, that no fornicator, unclean person, nor covetous man, who is an idolater, has any inheritance in the kingdom of Christ and of God. Let no one deceive you with empty words. For because of these things, the wrath of God comes upon the sons of disobedience." Unquote. So notice the first thing mentioned in here is fornication, which is sexual immorality. So Paul warned, and who was causing the deception? It is actually the group of those who are supposed to be followers of Christ, probably men who follow rather who invent doctrines such as you know that even though you commit these sins, you will still be saved. But Paul warns us that you should not be deceived with empty words such as that, you know, because those who do these things will not inherit the kingdom of Christ and of God. Okay, so be careful about once saved, always saved, about those who teach that even though you are a fornicator, you can still be saved as long as you believe in Jesus. So how can you believe if you are a fornicator, if you continue in fornication? How can you believe if you are a drunkard and continue on drinking? Yet many denominations teach simply that. So let's answer the question I posted earlier. Who is behind all of this? It is the devil who is behind the surge of immorality in the end times, because it is he who specializes in using sexual immorality to cause the downfall of men. If you notice what I showed you, everything seems to be orchestrated. The lockdown, the quarantine, and then the surge in internet use and sexual immorality and porn sites. In John 10:10, Jesus Christ said, "The thief does not come except to steal and to kill and to destroy. I, Jesus, have come that they may have life and that they may have it more abundantly." So who is the thief he was talking about in here? It is none other than the devil. In 2 Corinthians 2:11, the Apostle Paul stated, "Lest Satan should take advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices." So in these end times, the devices of Satan are the misuse of the internet, pornography, movies with sexual immorality, and using this in connivance with the lockdowns and the quarantine, you know. So in conclusion, 1 Thessalonians 4 verse 3, let us remember what the Apostle Paul said, "For this is the will of God, your sanctification, that you should abstain from sexual immorality, that each of you should know how to possess his own vessel in sanctification and honor, not in passion of lust like the Gentiles who do not know God." Notice the sanctification, that is the will of God, is actually avoidance of lust. I continue in verse 7, "For God did not call us to uncleanness, but in holiness. Therefore, he who rejects this does not reject man, but God, who has also given us his Holy Spirit." So this is One God Ministries, and I hope I have made you aware about sex in the end times and what the device Satan is actually using for the saints of God. So in these end times, we have a special trial, you know, especially designed for people in the end times, so that there would be, you know, Satan is using mass communication, he's using quarantine, he's using lockdown, for his end time temptation. He's using the internet, he's using pornography. So beware of these devices. So if you want to watch our other videos, simply go to YouTube and type One God Ministries. So until next time, this is One God Ministries.